It's true, ever since the start of my YouTube grind, I have been at least partially wrong about what you should do to go pro. You've probably heard me say over and over again, play scrims, do them 3 hours a day and prioritize doing them over everything else, bro. While for the most part, yeah, that is a good idea, the thing is, I was kinda wrong about this. To explain what I'm talking about, just think about what scrims are like for a second. For the most part, they are pretty consistent in what happens. You might be contested, but it's pretty predictable on what's going to happen with that, because usually there's like a drop map that people have to abide by, and then you usually play out mid-game without many weird scenarios happening where people make dumb plays of keying you in weird scenarios, etc. Because either there's literally zone rules in the scrim game, everyone already has what they need for in-game in terms of loot because of the drop map, meaning no one's like snagging a bit of their loot or contesting them, etc. Also, every game is just kind of too stacked to really key, or there's rules to follow on keying that people are trying to abide by. But then imagine a tournament. Every single game, the off-spawn situation is completely different in terms of where people are landing, how many people are landing on you, and the strategies they use, because there aren't any off-spawn rules in tournaments like there are in scrims. Then during mid-game, you'll come across so many situations where people make dumb plays and dumb keys on you in weird scenarios. Because during a tournament, there are no rules like there are in scrims on making dumb plays and keys mid-game, right? And not to mention the fact that in tournaments, there are games that are high elo, low elo, stacked games, not stacked games. What I'm trying to say is that during tournaments, you'll come across so many weird situations where people unpredictably key you. And if you only play scrims, you will not be prepared for this and fail miserably. But it's not that simple, because scrims are still amazing practice, as nothing else will teach you how to play mid-games and end-games as well as scrims do. Overall, in your Fortnite journey, grinding scrims and climbing the scrim ladder will be the most important thing you'll ever do. But the thing is, if you haven't started with a good basis of fighting skill, when people make dumb plays and key you in tournaments, you're just gonna die and not even make it to endgame. This is why when you're a beginner to Fortnite competitive with less than a few hundred PR, I want your focus to be like 70% on fighting skill and then 30% on game sense through like scrims, etc. And then realize as you stop being a complete beginner, like you're not really struggling with open level tournaments anymore, scrims should start to take over your priority. And as you get better and better from there on out, improving your game sense will become more and more important. Until the point where you are now a semi-pro player who spends almost 80% of their focus on VOD reviewing, scrims, etc. Because now in the games you struggle with, which would be like grand finals for example, fighting just doesn't really matter in them, and your fighting skill is plenty good enough to do well in qualifying tournaments. So for you as a beginner Fortnite competitive player, what would this actually look like on a day-to-day basis? Well, first of all, it heavily depends on how much time you get on your PC each day. If you have like 8 to 9 hours a day on your PC, you could easily still play 3 hours of scrims and then spend another 6 to 5 hours really focusing on your fighting skill by keying everyone you see in ranked, playing 1v1 tokens, maybe sweaty 1v1s against a similar skilled friend of yours, and so on. Now, if you have around 3 to 4 hours a day on your PC, yeah, you might play like a single session of solo scrims every couple nights, which might take up like 2 to 3 hours of that day's practice, which then you can just use a little extra time you have to play tokens, for example. But then for the majority of your days, you are only playing fighting practice. And then, as you slightly get more comfortable with fighting people off spawn in mid-game in open level qualifying tournaments, you slowly increase your focus towards scrims. Because in these open level tournaments, you will notice your struggle move from not being able to make endgame to not being able to do well in endgame. So your practice must slowly change to mirror your struggles. You made it through this whole video, so there's something I'm sure you'd be interested in, bro. My free email newsletter where I post heaps of unique advice and tips and tricks you don't see in my YouTube videos, so join for free using the link in the description of this video.